Now committee member Adam Schiff. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Stephanie Grisham said to reporters as she was leaving that she was fully cooperating with the committee. Can you give us any insight into what was discussed?
You know, I really can't go into the substance of it, and I was not part of what was described to me as an informal interview, so I can't shed much light on it. Obviously, we would prefer to have people cooperate at any level than some of the others from the former administration who are fighting tooth and nail, but I don't have the particulars on that.
You heard your colleague from the Select Committee, Representative Kinzinger. He's obviously from a party which, with few exceptions, is still not telling the truth about who won the presidential election. Is it possible to have a functional democracy when one side will not accept when it loses and will try to, in legislatures across the country, change history?
No, it isn't possible. And Anderson, I have the same exact sentiment that you expressed tonight. And I was there on the House floor during that attempted coup. And that is, the aftermath didn't have to turn out this way. It certainly appeared in the hours and days that followed that it might lead to repudiation of the big lie about the election, a repudiation of all the damage that Donald Trump had done to the country and to his own party. But instead, there was a quick capitulation by the McCarthys, the McConnells, the Stefanicks, who sought Liz Cheney's position when Liz Cheney wouldn't go along with that big lie. And at least Stefanik said, well, then take me. And tragically, we are now in a more dangerous place than we were a year ago. I think President Carter was exactly right about that. But no, if we don't accept when our party loses and vow to do better next time, if we somehow think any loss is illegitimate, that's the end of our democracy.
Attorney General Merrick Garland said today, quote, and I'm quoting, the Justice Department remains committed to holding all January 6 perpetrators at any level accountable under law. The Select Committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney has previously said that the key question before your committee, pursuant to applicable law, quote, did Donald Trump, through action or inaction, corruptly seek to obstruct Congress's official proceedings to count electoral votes, end quote. What, if any, direct evidence have you seen that the former president committed a crime on January 6th?
Well, I can't comment on the evidence that we've gathered. I watched the speech by the Attorney General today. I was heartened as someone who spent almost 6 years in the department to see the department once again led by a person of great integrity. And I think he said the right things about holding people accountable for the violence on January 6th, whether they were there on the ground or were elsewhere. What was left unsaid, Anderson, though, is what about the role of those involved, not just on the 6th, but in the days leading up to the 6th and the aftermath of the 6th, who may have broken the law to try to overturn the presidential election. In particular, what comes to mind to me is the efforts of the former president to get the Secretary of State of Georgia to essentially find 11,780 votes that don't exist. There was no indication from the Attorney General that issues like that were under investigation. And I don't believe that can be left to a local district attorney's office. So there was a lot unsaid today. Maybe it was an excess of discretion or suitable discretion on the Attorney General's part. But I think those issues need to be investigated by the department as well.
You would like to see the Department of Justice investigating that?
Absolutely. I think given that the department took the position for 4 years that you could not prosecute a sitting president, it would be very dangerous to take a position either formally or informally that as a practical matter, you also can't investigate or prosecute a former president. That would make the president above the law. And that's a dangerous proposition to begin with, but it's also something that the founding fathers never would have contemplated.
You said to the New York Times recently, and I'm quoting, you said, some witnesses are far more important than others, and I think that some really important witnesses are attempting to deprive the committee and the American people of what they know. Can you say who the witnesses are that you believe are most important to speak to in order to get the full picture of what happened that day? I mean, obviously, Steve Bannon would be important. Mark Meadows would.
Well, I think both of those witnesses, but in particular, Mark Meadows, given what we've already disclosed publicly in terms of the texts that were coming and going to his office and to him rather, he would be a key insider who could tell us what was happening in the White House on January 6th, what was happening in the days leading up to it, in terms of the plotting about how to overturn the election, what they knew about the propensity for violence that day, and why the president didn't act for hours. So he's a key witness, and he's already acknowledged through the production of 9,000 documents. There's a lot he could testify to that is no way privileged. So that's who I'm referring to, but there are others who are resisting as well. And of course, the former president is suing to try to prevent us from getting records from the archives. I would hope that the courts recognize he's using the same tactic he used for 4 years, which was simply to use the courts to deprive the country and the Congress of important information to protect our democracy.
Just finally, are you confident that whatever records there are were turned over to the National Archives? Because I was talking to a former archivist last night who said there's really no mechanism that forces people in the White House to turn over if they chose not to, if they have, if they want to delete stuff and not turn it over. Do you have knowledge that there is information there that's important?
I don't know, and I'm deeply concerned about it. There's certainly indications, for example, of people using encrypted apps like Signal to make sure that their their conversations were confidential. Did that also mean that those text conversations were not turned over to the archives? I don't know. There were voluminous, apparently, records and messages on personal emails, notwithstanding the fact that many of these same people viciously attacked Secretary Clinton for much of the same thing. So that is a very prevalent concern of mine, and I think other committee members, and we're determined to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, Congressman Schiff, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Joining us now.